I am 32 years old. My name is Kinsley. They say 32 is the prime of a woman's life. The age where you finally stop caring what people think and start demanding what you deserve. At least, that is what I told myself that Saturday afternoon, as I stood in a sun-drenched backyard in Connecticut, smoothing out the silk of my dress for the 5th time. The air smelled like charcoal, expensive bourbon, and the heavy, sweet scent of barbecue sauce. It was a perfect afternoon. Sarah's backyard was filled with people from our public relations firm. Everyone was laughing. Everyone was beautiful. And I felt like the sun itself. I looked over at Owen. He had been my partner for 4 years. 4 long, stable, predictable years. He was over by the cooler, talking to a group of men about the stock market. Owen was good. He was kind. He was safe. But lately, being with Owen felt like wearing a pair of comfortable slippers that had grown too thin at the soles. You knew exactly how they felt, but they didn't protect you from the sharp edges of the world anymore. I wanted more than safe. I wanted fire. Kinsley, you look absolutely lethal today. A voice boomed from behind me. I didn't have to turn around to know who it was. Vaughn Sterling, the head of our agency, 48 years old, silver at the temples, and possessed of a swagger that made every room he entered feel smaller. He was everything Owen wasn't. Vaughn was a predator in a tailored suit. He was successful, demanding, and dangerously charming. I turned and smiled, letting my eyes linger on his just a second too long. I try my best. Vaughn, especially for your parties. Come, walk with me, he said, his hand grazing the small of my back. I want to hear your thoughts on the Sterling West account. As we walked away from the crowd, I felt a thrill of rebellion. I knew Owen was watching. I could feel his eyes on me from across the lawn. But I didn't care. In fact, I think I wanted him to see. I wanted him to see that I was still a woman men desired, a woman who wasn't just a part of his boring routine. Vaughn led me toward the edge of the patio, near the tall hedges. He was talking, something about branding and market share, but his voice was dropping into that intimate tone he usually reserved for late-night strategy meetings. You're a talented woman. Kinsley, he murmured, leaning closer. You have this energy. Most people are afraid of it, but I find it intoxicating. The music was playing something slow, something sultry. I looked back and spotted Owen. He was standing perfectly still now, holding a beer he wasn't drinking. His expression was unreadable. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't planned. It was just an impulse, a need to feel alive. Vaughn, I said, my voice a whisper. He didn't hesitate. He cupped my face gently, his thumb tracing my lower lip, and then he kissed me. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a mistake. It was a passionate, deep, public betrayal. I heard the gasp from the crowd nearby. I heard a glass shatter on the stone tiles. But I didn't pull away. For those few seconds, I felt powerful. I felt seen. I felt like the woman I was meant to be. When we finally broke apart, the backyard had gone dead silent. The only sound was the crackle of the grill. Vaughn smiled. That devastating, arrogant smile, and stepped back. Thanks for the inspiration, Kinsley, he said smoothly, as if we had just finished discussing a spreadsheet. Then, he walked away to grab another drink. I stood there, the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. And that's when I saw Owen. He was walking toward me, slowly. His face was pale, his eyes dark with a pain I didn't want to acknowledge. Kinsley? His voice was quiet, controlled, but I could hear the tremor. I raised my chin. I felt exhilarated, defiant. It was just a joke. Owen, don't be so dramatic. A joke? He stopped a few feet away. That didn't look like a joke. Oh, come on, I laughed. But even to my own ears, it sounded forced. Everyone is being so sensitive. It's 2025. Owen, people can have a bit of fun without it, meaning the end of the world. Several of our friends had gathered in a circle now. It's a silent jury. Sarah looked mortified. I saw my sister, Bianca, pushing through the crowd with a look of pure horror on her face. Kinsley, maybe we should just go home, Owen said, his voice dropping to a whisper. Let's talk about this privately. There is nothing to talk about, I snapped, louder than I intended. God, Owen, you're acting like I committed a felony. It was harmless. Maybe if you weren't always so boring, so possessive, I wouldn't feel the need to look for a little excitement. The damage was done. Owen's face went from pale to a deep, wounded red. If I wasn't what? Kinsley? If I wasn't what? I didn't back down. I doubled down. You know what I mean. You're always watching me, always worrying about where I am, who I'm talking to. It's suffocating. A woman should be able to express her own identity without her partner acting like he owns her. Bianca finally reached us. Kinsley, stop. Please. You're making a scene. I'm not making a scene, I shouted, gesturing wildly at the shocked faces around me. I'm being honest. I see a world where relationships are based on trust and freedom, not jealousy and paranoia. Owen didn't say another word. He just nodded, slowly, as if something had finally clicked into place in his mind. He didn't storm off. He didn't yell. He just turned and walked away. He walked with a quiet dignity that made my defiant stance feel small. Well, I announced to the remaining crowd, I guess the party can continue now that the drama's over. But the party didn't continue. People began to disperse. They gathered their things, made excuses about early mornings, and avoided my eyes. Within 20 minutes, the yard was nearly empty. Bianca stood by my side. Kinsley, what have you done? I lived my life. Bianca, I said, grabbing a glass of wine. I'm not going to dim my light for a man who can't handle the shine. My sister just shook her head. That's not what this is. You just threw away the only person who actually loved the real you, for a man who won't even remember your name by Monday. We'll see, I muttered. When I finally got back to our apartment, Owen was sitting at the kitchen table. His laptop was open. He didn't look up when I walked in. Look, Owen, I started, leaning against the counter. I think you're making too big a deal out of this. He closed his laptop and looked at me. His expression was neutral. Blank. Kinsley, is there something going on between you and Vaughn that I should know about? The question hung in the cold air of the kitchen. I could have told him the truth. I could have told him about the late nights at the office, the lingering touches in the elevator, the way Vaughn made me feel like I was the most important person in the building. I could have explained how I'd been feeling restless, unappreciated, like my potential was being wasted in our safe little life. Instead, I shrugged. You're being paranoid. Owen, just like I said at the party. He stared at me for a long moment. Then, he nodded. Okay, I see. He stood up, taking his laptop with him. I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight. I think we both need some space. You're really going to punish me for one kiss? I called after him. He paused in the doorway. He didn't turn around. I'm not punishing you, Kinsley. I'm just trying to figure out who it is I've been living with for the last 4 years. The door clicked shut. I poured myself a massive glass of wine and sat on the sofa. I replayed the kiss in my head. It had been amazing. Passionate. Everything Owen wasn't. Everyone had seen it. They saw me as powerful, desirable. So why did I feel this gnawing emptiness in my stomach? The next morning, I woke up alone. The sun was streaming through the curtains I had picked out 2 years ago. The ones Owen said were too expensive but bought anyway, because he knew I liked them. He was already gone. Probably left for work early to avoid another fight. I checked my phone. 17 missed calls from my mother, 6 from Bianca, and a string of text messages I wasn't ready to read. At the office, the atmosphere was thick. Conversation died the second I walked into the break room. I could feel the eyes following me. Morning. Kinsley, my assistant, Tara, mumbled, barely looking up from her desk. Morning, Tara. Any messages? Just the usual stuff, she said, and her voice cold. She didn't offer to get me coffee. She didn't ask about my weekend. She just retreated into her work. I went into my office and tried to focus. But my mind was on Vaughn. Would he come by? Would he say something about the kiss? I waited for the thrill to return. I waited for the extraordinary life to begin. Around 10 o'clock, I heard his distinctive, booming laugh coming from the hallway. I looked through my glass office wall. Vaughn was walking with 2 senior partners, He looked perfectly fine, completely unaffected by what had happened. I waited for him to stop at my door. I waited for a wink, a smile, a secret sign. He didn't even look at me. He walked right past my office as if I were a piece of furniture he had grown tired of. I felt a sharp sting of frustration. How could he be so casual? My phone buzzed. A text from Owen. Working late. Don't wait up. Short. Distant. Completely unlike his usual messages that were full of little jokes, reminders to eat, and I love yous. I stared at the screen. A mixture of guilt and irritation flared up. He was being dramatic. He was punishing me with silence. I decided to take control. I walked out to Tara's desk. So, Tara, did you hear about the party? I asked, my voice loud enough for the nearby cubicles to hear. Tara looked incredibly uncomfortable. Yes. A little? People are making such a big deal out of nothing, I said, laughing, though it sounded brittle. Vaughn and I were just having a bit of fun. You know how some people are. They see a conspiracy in every corner. Right, Tara said, her voice flat. She kept typing. I mean, Owen is a sweet guy, but he can be so possessive. Like he thinks I'm his property. Modern relationships require trust, don't you think? Tara stopped typing. She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw pity in her eyes. Kinsley, Owen isn't the one people are talking about. She went back to her work. I felt a surge of heat in my face. I retreated to my office and slammed the door. A few minutes later, Bianca called. Kinsley, we need to talk, she said, skipping the greeting. Good morning to you too, sis. Don't. Just don't. What were you thinking? I was thinking that I am a grown woman who can make her own choices, I snapped. You embarrassed yourself. Kinsley, you humiliated Owen, and you've probably ruined your career. Vaughn Sterling is married. Did you even think about that? It's not about Vaughn's wife. It's about me. It's about the fact that I won't be held back by someone else's insecurities. This isn't about insecurities, Kinsley. It's about respect. You showed Owen zero respect. And now, he's done. He's not done, I said, though my voice lacked conviction. He's just sulking. He'll get over it. He's not sulking, Bianca said softly. He's mourning. There's a difference. I hung up on her. I couldn't listen to it anymore. They were all against me. All of them. Around noon, I decided to go to the cafeteria. I needed to see Vaughn. I needed to know where we stood. I found him at his usual table, surrounded by his inner circle. I walked up, my heart pounding, and set my tray down. Mind if I join you? I asked, flashing my most confident smile. The table went silent. Vaughn looked at me. His expression was professional, polished, cold. Actually, Kinsley, we're in the middle of a private discussion regarding the Sterling West account. Oh, I can help with that, I said, reaching out to brush his hand. He pulled his hand away. Not quickly, but firmly. I think it's best if we keep our interactions strictly professional from now on. Kinsley, professional boundaries are important. I'm sure you understand. Professional boundaries? I whispered. The phrase felt like a slap. After Saturday, Vaughn didn't even blink. Saturday was a lapse in judgment. For both of us, it won't happen again. Now, if you'll excuse us. I stood there, clutching the back of my chair, as the world around me seemed to blur. He was done with me. I had been a lapse in judgment, a weekend distraction. I walked out of the cafeteria, my head spinning. I felt like I was walking through a thick fog. When I got home that evening, the apartment was quiet, too quiet. Owen was in the kitchen. He was making dinner, just for himself. One plate, one glass of water. How was work? I asked, my voice small. Fine, he said. Without looking up. Are you not making enough for two? I wasn't sure when you'd be home. There's some salad in the fridge if you're hungry. This was the silence. The punishment. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't calling me names. He was just treating me like a stranger. Like a roommate he barely knew. Owen, this is ridiculous. We need to talk about what happened. He set his fork down and looked at me. His eyes were empty. What is there to talk about? Kinsley? You made it very clear how you feel. You think I'm boring. You think I'm possessive. You think I'm holding you back. I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. Did you? Because you seemed very sure of yourself when you were kissing your boss in front of 50 people. It was just one kiss. Owen. One moment of spontaneity and 4 years of boring routine. Owen's face went very still. Boring routine. I bit my lip. I hadn't meant to say that. Not like that. I didn't mean. No. I think you did, he said quietly. He stood up, leaving his half-eaten dinner on the table. I'm going to stay at my mother's for a few days. I need to think. Owen. Wait! But he was already grabbing his keys. I'll come by tomorrow to get some more clothes. Please, don't make this harder than it needs to be. He walked out. The front door clicked shut. I sat at the table and staring at his half-eaten pasta. I felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to cry, but I didn't. Instead, I picked up my phone and called my mother. He's being ridiculously possessive. Mom, I said, the words tumbling out. A confident woman is a threat to a man like him. Honey, my mother's voice was tired. You did something terrible. You can't blame Owen for being hurt. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying he's overreacting. He's not overreacting. He's reacting to the fact that you broke his heart. You need to apologize. Kinsley, truly apologize. I'm not going to apologize for being myself, I shouted. I hung up and poured another drink. I went onto social media. I needed validation. I posted a photo of myself, looking beautiful, looking strong. Sometimes being true to yourself means disappointing people who want you to be someone else. Real love supports growth, not conformity. Number strong women. Number no apologies. The likes started rolling in, mostly from people who didn't know me, or from men who just liked the photo. But there were comments. Ass too. Get it, girl. Owen was always too small for you. Don't let them dim your shine. I drank the wine and read the comments, feeling a temporary surge of rightness. I wasn't the villain. I was the hero of my own story. The next few days were a blur of cold shoulders at the office and silence at home. Owen didn't call. He didn't text. I threw myself into work. I volunteered for extra projects. I stayed late. Anything to avoid the empty apartment. But even at work, things were changing. I wasn't getting invited to the inner circle lunches anymore. Vaughn continued to treat me with a chilling, professional courtesy. One afternoon, I overheard Tara talking to another assistant in the hallway. I just feel bad for him, Tara said. Owen is such a sweet guy. He worshipped her. And then, for her to do that, and then to post about it online, it's just cruel. I stepped out of my office. Is there a problem? Tara? She looked at me, and for the first time, she didn't look away. No problem. Kinsley. We were just discussing weekend plans. They walked away, whispering. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. 3 days later, I received an invitation. A dinner at Owen's mother's house. Beatrice. It was a tradition we had kept for years. Every second Thursday of the month. Owen had texted me the details. Dinner at my mom's. 7 o'clock. She's expecting us both. I felt a surge of hope. This was it. Beatrice loved me. She would talk some sense into him. We would have a nice meal, and then we would go home together, and everything would go back to normal. I spent an hour getting ready. I chose a conservative dress. Something respectable. I wanted to look like the woman Owen had fallen in love with. The safe woman. Even if I knew I was so much more. Owen picked me up in his car. The drive was silent. The only sound was the hum of the heater and the ticking of the clock on the dashboard. How have you been? Owen? I asked, trying to sound casual. Busy, he said, his eyes fixed on the road. Vaughn has been giving me a lot of responsibility on the new account. He says I have real potential. I saw his grip tighten on the steering wheel. That's nice. He really understands my ambition. Owen. He doesn't try to keep me small. Owen pulled into Beatrice's driveway and turned off the engine. He turned to look at me. His face was etched with a sadness that made my heart ache. Just for a second. Kinsley. My mother invited Bianca, too. What? Why would she invite my sister? Because Bianca is worried about you. We're all worried about you. I don't need anyone to be worried about me. I'm fine. Are you? Owen asked softly. Because you don't seem fine. You seem like you're drowning, and you're trying to convince everyone the water is fine. He got out of the car. Beatrice's house smelled like pot roast and fresh-baked bread. It was a smell that usually made me feel welcomed, loved. But tonight, it felt like a trap. Beatrice greeted us at the door with her usual smile. But I could see the concern in her eyes. "Kinsley, dear, you look lovely. Come in." Bianca was already there, sitting in the living room with a glass of wine. She gave me a stiff nod. The dinner was an exercise in polite torture. Beatrice had made all of Owen's favorites: pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans from her garden. Under normal circumstances, I would have enjoyed the meal. But tonight, every bite felt like swallowing rocks. "So, Kinsley," Beatrice said, carefully cutting her meat. "How are things at the office?" "Good, very good. Like I told Owen, Von Sterling has been mentoring me personally. He says I have a natural talent for client relations." Bianca nearly choked on her wine. Beatrice's fork hovered in midair. "Von Sterling?" Beatrice repeated. "The man from the incident at the party?" I felt a surge of defensiveness. "It wasn't an incident, Beatrice. It was just a bit of fun. People are making such a big deal out of nothing." "A big deal?" Owen said, his voice suddenly sharp. "You humiliated me. Kinsley. You kissed another man in front of everyone we know. And then you told me I was boring routine?" "I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it?" he asked, leaning forward. "Did you mean it as a compliment?" "I feel like there is an elephant in the room here," I said, setting my fork down. "I know why we're all here. You want to talk about Saturday." Beatrice folded her hands. "We're just concerned. Dear, we care about your relationship. We care about Owen. And what about me? Doesn't anyone care about what I want? And what is it you want?" "Kinsley?" Bianca asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "More extraordinary moments with a married man who doesn't even want to have lunch with you? That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you considered Owen's feelings? When was the last time you thought about anyone but yourself?" I looked around the table. At Beatrice's disappointed face, at Bianca's anger, at Owen's silence. I felt cornered, attacked. "You know what I think?" I said, standing up. "I think you're all enabling Owen's insecurity. I think he can't handle the fact that I'm a successful, attractive woman who gets attention from other men. And instead of encouraging him to grow up, you're all ganging up on me." The silence that followed was deafening. Beatrice's face went pale. Bianca looked away. Owen stood up. He looked at me, and for the first time, there was no sadness in his eyes, only a cold, hard finality. "Is that really what you think of me, Kinsley? I think you're a good man, Owen. But you're small. You want a small life, and I want more." "What do you want?" he asked, his voice a whisper. "I want passion. I want excitement. I want someone who understands my energy. Someone like Vaughn." The words were out before I could stop them. Owen nodded. "I see. I guess that settles it then." He looked at his mother. "I'm sorry, Mom. Thank you for dinner. It was delicious." He kissed her cheek, then looked at me one last time. "I'll be staying at my mother's for a while. I'll call you when I've made arrangements for my things." "Owen, wait!" But he was already out the door. I stood there in the middle of Beatrice's dining room, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had won. I had spoken my truth. So why did I feel like I had just jumped off a cliff? "You should go, Kinsley," Beatrice said quietly, without looking at me. "Yes," I muttered. "I think I should." Bianca walked me to my car. "Are you happy now, Kinsley?" she asked. "I'm honest. If that makes me happy, then yes. You just destroyed a 4-year relationship and humiliated yourself in front of people who actually cared about you. If that's your definition of happiness, then I feel sorry for you." "Don't feel sorry for me, Bianca. Feel sorry for women who settle for less than they deserve because they're afraid to demand more." That night, I posted on Facebook. Authenticity means being true to yourself even when it's hard. Real love is about growth, not limitations. I'm moving on to my next chapter. Number new beginnings, number no regrets. I waited for the validation. I waited for the thrill. But as the hours ticked by, The only thing I felt was the crushing, absolute silence of the apartment. 3 days passed. Dan. I mean, Owen. He didn't call. He didn't text. I stayed late at the office every night. I threw myself into the new account. But even that was losing its luster. Vaughn remained distant, professional, chillingly polite. I began to realize that I wasn't the one. I was just a one. A brief diversion. That Friday evening, I was sitting in the dark living room, drinking wine and staring at the wall. The silence was gnawing at me. I couldn't stand it anymore. I called him. Voicemail. I tried again an hour later. Voicemail. By the fourth attempt, I was furious. Owen, this is ridiculous. We need to talk. You can't just disappear because your feelings are hurt. Call me back. He didn't. The next morning, a Tuesday, I was at my desk, struggling through my third cup of coffee. I was trying to focus on a press release, but the words were blurring together. My phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Kinsley Moffat? A woman's voice asked. Crisp. Professional. Yes. Who is this? This is Patricia Hayes. From Hayes and Associates Legal Services. I'm calling on behalf of my client, Owen Vance. My heart stopped. Legal Services? Is Owen okay? Has something happened? Mr. Vance is fine. I'm calling to request your presence at a meeting regarding shared property and the dissolution of your cohabitation arrangement. Would Thursday at 2 o'clock work for your schedule? Shared property? What are you talking about? We're not married. Nevertheless, there are financial entanglements that need to be addressed. The apartment lease, joint bank accounts, shared assets. Mr. Vance would like to resolve these matters amicably and efficiently. I felt the blood drain from my face. He hired a lawyer? Over what? Exactly? I think it would be best if we discuss the details in person. Can I put you down for Thursday at 2? Yes. Fine. I'll send you the address. Have a good day. Miss Moffat. I sat staring at the phone, my hand trembling. Owen had hired a lawyer. Quiet, gentle Owen, who had never even raised his voice at me. He was really, truly done. I called my mother immediately. A lawyer, she cried. Who does he think he is? You're not even married. This is so typical of him, making everything more dramatic than it needs to be. It's intimidation. Mom, I said, though my voice was shaky. He's trying to scare me into crawling back. Don't you dare crawl back. Kinsley, you've done nothing wrong. You were just being yourself. But even as she spoke, I felt a cold knot of dread in my chest. Thursday afternoon, I dressed with extreme care. I chose my most professional outfit, a navy blue power suit. I wanted to look competent, successful, untouchable. The law office was in a sleek, high-rise downtown, all glass and steel, intimidating. The receptionist directed me to a conference room. Owen was already there. He looked different, older, somehow. He was wearing his best suit, the one I had helped him pick out for job interviews. His hair was freshly cut. He didn't look up when I walked in. Hello, Owen. He didn't respond. He just kept looking at a folder on the table. Miss Moffat, thank you for coming, Patricia Hayes said, entering the room. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Please, have a seat. I sat across from Owen. He still hadn't looked at me. Now then, Patricia said, opening a thick file. Let's discuss the matters at hand. Mr. Vance has made it clear that he wishes to terminate the cohabitation arrangement as of the 1st of next month. The 1st of next month? I gasped. That's 3 weeks away. The lease for the apartment is in Mr. Vance's name, Patricia said calmly. He has already made arrangements for his own relocation. He is providing you with 30 days' notice to make your own living arrangements. Owen, you can't be serious. This is our home. It was a home. Kinsley, he said, his voice quiet, hollow. He finally looked at me, and I saw nothing. No love, no anger, just emptiness. But it hasn't been a home for a long time. Patricia continued, sliding a stack of papers across the table. Regarding the shared financial assets, we have documented a pattern of unusual spending. Over the last month, I felt a surge of heat in my cheeks. Unusual spending? Several large purchases on the joint credit card. Expensive dinners for two at restaurants Mr. Vance has never frequented. Spa treatments. High-end clothing. Those were for work. I lied. Patricia pulled out a series of photographs. They were printouts from social media. Photos of me at Sarah's party, dancing with Vaughn. Photos of me at expensive restaurants, tagged by various people I had been seen with. These were taken on dates when Mr. Vance was at home. Or at work, Patricia said. Are you suggesting these were professional expenses? The room went dead silent. I could feel Owen's eyes on me. It's a competitive industry. Patricia, you have to maintain an image. We're not interested in your image, Miss Moffat, Patricia said. We are interested in the fact that you used shared funds to pursue a lifestyle that excluded your partner, Mr. Vance is requesting a full reimbursement of these funds as part of the settlement. Reimbursement? I don't have that kind of money. Then we will have to look at your portion of the shared savings account, Patricia said. Unfazed. I looked at Owen. Owen, please, can't we talk about this privately? Without lawyers? We tried talking. Kinsley, he said, his voice a low, steady rumble. At Sarah's. At my mother's. But every time we talked, you told me I was the problem. You told everyone that I was suffocating you. I was just trying to find my identity. And you found it, he said. It's just an identity I don't want to be a part of anymore. Patricia cleared her throat. There's one more matter. Mr. Vance is requesting a formal cease and desist regarding your social media posts. Several of your recent posts have been interpreted as defamatory toward his character and have caused significant emotional distress. Defamatory? I never even mentioned his name. Your social circle is small. Miss Moffat, everyone knows who you are talking about. Your posts characterize him as possessive, controlling, and insecure. These are serious allegations that can impact his professional reputation. I felt like I was drowning. The room was spinning. If you continue to post about Mr. Vance or his family, we will have no choice but to pursue a civil suit for defamation. I looked at the stack of legal documents in front of me. This was really happening. I need to talk to my own lawyer, I whispered. I suggest you do, Patricia said, standing up. Please have them contact my office by the end of the week. Owen? Owen stood up. He walked toward the door, then paused. He looked back at me, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of the man he used to be, the man who had held me when I was sad, who had celebrated my smallest victories, who had loved me with a quiet, steady devotion I had mistaken for boredom. Good luck with your extraordinary life. Kinsley, he said softly. Then, he was gone. The 30 days passed in a blur of packing boxes and cold realization. Owen had moved out while I was at work. He took his books, his clothes, the coffee maker he loved. He left the furniture. He said I could have it. He didn't want the reminders. I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It was half the size of our old place. The walls were thin. The street outside was loud. At the office, things reached a breaking point. Vaughn Sterling called me into his office one Monday morning. Kinsley, sit down. He didn't look at me. He was looking at a file on his desk. There has been a lot of chatter in the agency lately about your personal life, about your social media posts. Vaughn, it's my personal life. It shouldn't matter. It matters when it impacts the morale of the office. And it matters when it involves me. I told you, professional boundaries are essential. Your recent behavior has made those boundaries difficult to maintain. What are you saying? I think it's best if you move on. Kinsley, I've spoken with HR. We're offering you a 3-month severance package. I suggest you take it. You're firing me? After everything? He finally looked at me. His eyes were cold. There is no everything. Kinsley, there was a kiss at a party. A kiss I've already forgotten. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting. I walked out of the agency with a box of my things, feeling the eyes of everyone on me. Tara didn't look up. Nobody said goodbye. I went back to my small, lonely apartment and sat on the floor. I opened a box of things from our old home. In the bottom of the box, I found a small, wooden chest. It was the memory box we had started in our second year. I opened it. Ticket stubs from movies we'd seen together. Restaurant receipts from our favorite anniversaries. Little notes he had left me on the fridge. Good morning. Beautiful. Have a great day. I love you. Oh. Thanks for taking care of me when I was sick. You're my hero. Oh. Can't wait to grow old with you. Oh. Page after page of quiet kindness. Daily affection. A love that I had taken for granted and ultimately thrown away in pursuit of something that had never existed. Vaughn didn't want me. My extraordinary life was just a collection of expensive dinners and empty compliments. I called Owen. Voicemail. Owen. It's me. I found the box. I'm so sorry. I was so stupid. Please. Can we just talk? I don't want the extraordinary life. I want you. I waited for the phone to ring. I waited for him to come to my door. He didn't. 6 months later, I was sitting in a small cafe, waiting for my shift to start. I was working as a junior publicist for a small, local firm. The pay was terrible. The work was uninspiring. But it was a job. Bianca walked in. She looked happy, radiant. Hey, sis, she said, sitting down. Hey, how are you? Good. Really good. I have some news. I braced myself. Owen is getting married. Next month? The words felt like a physical blow. I felt the air leave my lungs. Married? To who? A teacher named Leah. She's lovely. Kinsley. Truly lovely. She's exactly what he needs. Someone who appreciates him. Someone who wants the same things. I see. He's happy. Kinsley. Really happy. He looks different. Lighter. That's good, I whispered, though it felt like my heart was being torn out. I'm glad. Bianca reached across the table and touched my hand. I'm sorry, Kinsley. I really am. Don't be. I got what I wanted. Remember? I wanted fire. I just didn't realize it would burn my whole world down. I watched my sister walk out of the cafe, heading back to a life that was stable and safe and beautiful. I picked up my phone and went onto social media. I hadn't posted in months. I looked at my old posts. The ones about strength and freedom. The ones about not settling. They looked pathetic. The desperate justifications of a woman who had been too arrogant to see what she had until it was gone. I deleted my accounts. Every single one. I sat in the silence of the cafe, listening to the ticking of the clock on the wall, and I finally understood. Passion without commitment is just noise. Excitement without love is just a distraction. I am 33 years old now. My name is Kinsley, and I am finally, truly, alone. There is no next time. There is no exciting new chapter. There is just the silence, the punishment, and the bitter, cold realization that Owen was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too extraordinary to see it. I stood up and put on my apron. It was time to start my shift. It was time to live with the life I had chosen. And for the first time in my life, I had absolutely nothing to say.